What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. There's some stuff going on. I've envied Canadians for a long time because they have access to blitzbet.eu, but definitely envying you guys today. Crazy day in the world, but we're going to try to take your mind off of that for a second. We're going to talk some football betting ahead of week 9. Can you believe it? Week 9. I promise I won't say, can you believe it, before every week from here on out. This is the last time I'll say, can you believe it? From here on out, we will believe it. And you can believe that we have Joe Holka and Matt LaMarca with us here today. Joe, baby, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Weird morning overall. We pushed through some stuff. We were talking about how just YouTube was acting weird overall. So I think that just being in the United States today, there's going to be, I guess I should have expected weird things to happen no matter what, I guess, niche or job you have. But yeah, man, it's good. I feel like every time you say something like that, I'm more just like, yeah, I can't believe it's week 9 already because we're almost halfway through like the DFS season. It's weird, man. It's flying by.
I firmly believe that the reason we were having problems with YouTube this morning is because the government wants to hold Big Saxy down. He cannot be stopped. We still have him. Take that, government. The deep state won't let Big Saxy talk. But you're here with us today, baby. How you?
Yeah, if there is a week to silence me, this probably ain't it. I'm coming off a rough week last week.
You don't have to tell people that.
I
I'm
had
with you,
too many
LaMarca.
favorites. Looking back on it, I probably ate too much chalk last week. Like in retrospect, the Vikings were a solid pick last week that I should have been on, and I came around to that by Sunday, but it took me a while to get there. Some other game like the Chargers had no business not covering last week. Same for the Saints, but overall, probably just too many favorites. So hopefully I'll go back to my roots this week, dig in and take some of these more contrarian stances that usually pay off.
Well, we'll start with Thursday night. The 49ers have had a rough week, to say the least, and now they get to play on Thursday night against Aaron Rodgers. Technically speaking, this is a rematch of the NFC Championship game. I don't think anyone's expecting it to look like the NFC Championship game. Nick Mullins is going to start at quarterback for the 49ers. Right now, there's a lot of respect for the 49ers out there, given the situation that they're in. Right now, I'm seeing 4, 3.5 in some places. You can bet this game on blitzbet.eu. But according to Sports Insights, 91% of the bets are going in on the Packers, and it makes all the sense in the world. Matt, are you going to take a dog here? Are you going to get back to your roots? Are you going to go with the underdog at home and play Nick Mullins against a Green Bay Packers team, which, by the way, Aaron Rodgers ain't getting rushed the entire game. So good luck to you.
Yeah, it's a really tough spot to pick San Francisco. I mean, their entire team is hurt. It's an NFC rematch if the 49ers played all their backups in the NFC Championship game last year. Like they already had the highest percentage of their salary cap on the sidelines, and that was before losing Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle.
You want a number?
Yeah.
$54 million was on IR before they added $80 million against the cap yesterday in Garoppolo and Kittle. So, yeah, they're a little banged up.
That said, I am starting to come around on the fact that the Packers are probably overrated. They got off to a good start this year, but Rodgers was literally playing at an absurd level, like an unsustainable level, if we're being honest. And if he's going to be more, just a good quarterback as opposed to, top 2 MVP candidate level quarterback, then this team is probably overrated. There has been, it looks like, some sharp activity on the Niners. You mentioned they're only getting 9% of the spread bets, but 26% of the spread dollars. So that's actually a pretty sizable discrepancy.
Yes, I'll give you that.
We'll see what happens. I don't think I feel confident enough to take the 49ers, but I'm also not looking to back the Packers as like massive chalk road favorites.
Joe, I look at this game and I think the one way that you beat Aaron Rodgers is you rush him. And otherwise, he's got one great receiver. They should have a decent running game. I don't know who the hell the running backs are going to be. So, yeah, you could say, I don't know if I want to be on the Packers. I think LaMarca's on the right plane there by saying, listen, this one's a little too hot to trot. At the same time, just bad vibes all around San Francisco. They played like crap on Sunday. Now they got a backup quarterback in there who did well in garbage time, but like, come on, what are we really talking about here? and they don't have a pass rush. They're the exact opposite of the team they were last year on the defensive side, a team that absolutely destroyed Aaron Rodgers. I would expect Aaron Rodgers to maybe have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and try to get his back, somehow avenging an NFC championship game loss by doing it on Thursday Night Football. Are you seeing it, or are you with LaMarca and just saying, nah, not for me?
I'm with LaMarca that this game scares me a little bit because I think they're just like daring you to bet the Packers at where this line is right now, which is a little bit scary. They were kind of exposed last week for how inefficient they are at defending the run. Like everyone wants to talk about in the draft how they just didn't go out and get Aaron Rodgers another wide receiver in a very deep wide receiver draft. They also didn't really address their, I guess, problems at defending the run. So Dalvin Cook just goes absolutely crazy last week. Should have saw that one coming. LaMarca, I'm with you, man. I didn't have a great week last week overall. Basically, if you didn't have the trio of Metcalf, Dolphins D, and Dalvin Cook, you weren't winning anything in terms of getting all the way to the top. So that was unfortunate. This game's an odd one. I don't have any monthly trends for you this week, LaMarca, but it is interesting that over at least the last 2 years, Packers have played 5 games on the West Coast. They're 0-5 in those games, 1-3-1 against the spread. So that's kind of interesting. I kind of throw out some of the 49ers trends from last year just because they were such a different team overall. But they are 1-6 against the spread in their past 7 home games, a little bit more of a recent trend for the 49ers. So I think that San Francisco is interesting. I just don't know if I can completely do it. This game makes me uncomfortable.
What do you think about this? And I'll throw this at you, Joe. Kind of a bounce back physicality game. You mentioned Dalvin Cook just going crazy. I mean, there was a clear delineation in that game against the Vikings on Sunday between the Packers and the Vikings when it came to just physicality. The Packers got pushed around both sides of the ball. And usually a good team, and it's hard to say that the Packers aren't a good team. Usually a good team like that responds by coming out real heavy the next game against a San Francisco team that, let's be honest, I don't know what kind of juice they're going to have on the defensive side, and their offensive line sucks. Do you think there's anything to be said for a bounce back physicality game?
Yeah, can you just see Mike Zimmer coming into the locker room before this game being like, these Packers, these guys are soft. You know what I mean? Like, let's shove it right down their throat. Like, I can literally, I feel like I was there. I guarantee that happened. And that's like the MMO, or the MMO. That's the MO for beating the Packers is you get physical with them, you run the ball. And I think this is another team that, even though they have injuries, of course, they could do that. So I think that this line does make, a decent amount of sense. I don't know. I don't know if I see a bounce back coming for the Packers. I think we know what they are at this point, personally.
So I think that the play here, if we can't agree on one play, and I'm with you guys that this one's a little too hot to try, I think we're going to go with the under on 52, right? Because I don't see Nick Mullins putting up 3 touchdowns anytime soon. And the Packers, I don't know what they're going to be on offense. We're not feeling them the way that we had felt them in the past. So I'd say under 52 is probably the play here, if anything. But ultimately, take the Thursday off. It's probably just, again, a little too weird for you to feel good. And you don't want to start your week like that. You don't want to start your week in a weird place. It's already weird enough. Let's go to Seattle and Buffalo. This is, in theory, a good game. I'm totally out on Buffalo's defense. I'm totally in on Seattle's offense. So I'm not surprised to see 3, 2.5. It opened at 1.5. So we're kind of floating around that field goal range here with Seattle going to Buffalo. How do you feel about it, Joe? Do you feel like the Seattle offense is completely unstoppable? Or can Buffalo figure something out to slow them down? Because I think we know what they are on offense now. I think we know what Buffalo is. I think Seattle has deficiencies, but they also have the better quarterback in this game. How does it shake out for you?
Yeah, this is an interesting game also because it's another one when I saw what the line was currently at. I was like, wow, that's a little bit tighter than I expected. I get it. Seattle's on the road. Russell Wilson could very easily be the MVP this year if he continues even like 80% of what he's done so far. So I think it's a little bit of a mismatch here. I'm not a big fan of what Buffalo's been showing us on defense. Obviously, we know the struggles in terms of Allen. I think this is a spot where he'll definitely get back on track. We know the Seattle defense basically gives it up no matter what, but I don't know if there's many teams in the league that can just keep up with what Russell Wilson can do on the other side. So I think that pretty clearly on the over here, even though it's a pretty aggressive line. I do think that Seattle, I guess when it comes down to it, bet what Russell Wilson, and then I think you'll be in a pretty good spot, especially on a tight spread here.
Total on this one is 54. Maddie, any concerns about it being a 10 a.m. body clock game right after daylight savings time for Russell Wilson going to Buffalo?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Okay, fair enough.
This is an interesting one. Like, I feel like for the past 3 weeks now, I've been looking at this and saying, why is this line on Seattle so low? Why were they only favored by 3.5 against the
Mhm.
Cardinals in a game that they ultimately lost? Why are they only favored by 3 against the 49ers? And now why are they only favored by 2.5 against the Bills?
Right.
So I think looking into
People
it,
don't trust this defense.
that's exactly it. Vegas thinks that this team is overrated. Like as far as public perception goes, I think most people would say Seattle is, maybe the third or fourth best team in football, but they really aren't, just based on the fact that they are going to give up a million points.
Mhm.
Now, I don't think Buffalo is solid offensively, but they're not a juggernaut,
Yeah.
and they also stink on defense. So I think this game is kind of like a shootout type of game script, and
Okay.
I'm always going to back Seattle in those potential games. So yeah, after saying I wasn't going to pick all the chalk this week, let's start it off with Seattle laying 2.5 on the road.
And
Uh,
one thing too,
yeah.
before you jump into it, Dieter, the Bills actually, as a home underdog, have been horrendous. 3-11 straight up, 4-10 against the spread in their last 14 games as a home underdog. So I think I'm with you, LaMarca. It doesn't feel great to be on two chalk teams so far, but here we are.
And you would think that Buffalo would have plenty of experience recently with being a home
Right.
underdog. I know they've been good the last couple of years, but it's not as if, the Patriots haven't been in their division over the last few and they don't get one game like that a year. I'm with you on the over in this game. Two things I'm looking for. Will Chris Carson be able to go? They're probably going to hold him out until Friday, but I think he changes the complexion of that offense a little bit. They did not have to run the ball against San Francisco, but I think they will against Buffalo. And again, I don't think very highly of Buffalo's defense, but you do have to have some balance, and DJ Dallas ain't doing it for me. Though he was fine. He was fine against San Francisco, just not the same level of competition. The other part is Jamal Adams. If Jamal Adams is in there, I just think that changes the Seattle defense pretty significant amount. I just think that really does change the paradigm. I don't think they become like elite or anything like that anytime soon, but if they're terrible, they can become average by having one of the best players in the NFL, arguably the best safety in the NFL, in that, defensive backfield messing some stuff up. They give up everything over the middle of the field. You get Jamal Adams, you're not giving up everything over the middle of the field. So he's on a pitch count apparently this week in practice. Keep an eye on that because he's going to bring some juice regardless of if he can play a ton of snaps or not. He's going to bring juice to the game. And I think that's really more than anything else what this Seahawks defense needs. And I guess Carlos Dunlap might be playing too. So that could be a big boost for Seattle. I think I'm buying Seattle long. I don't think they played their best football yet. And I know why the books have them the way that they have them. But I think that they're going to get better as the season goes on. And that, credit to Russell. He held them up way more than he had to over the first couple of weeks. Now I think the team starts to pick him up a little bit, and Seattle's probably going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. A game that is not as exciting is Denver, who somehow, some way beat the Chargers. I have no idea how it happened other than the Chargers. And they get to play Atlanta and Matt Ryan, who will be subject to trade rumors, well, for another couple hours. He's not getting traded.
No way.
Atlanta is a 4-point favorite. It is a 50-point total. Are we buying in on Drew Lock, Matt LaMarca? Are we locked in?
I think so. Not overly impressed with Drew Lock by any stretch of the imagination, but if there's any team to succeed against, it's the Atlanta Falcons, who continue to just hemorrhage points. I do think that Atlanta has played a little bit better since getting rid of Dan Quinn, but I still don't think that they deserve to be 4-point favorites here. Sharps early in the week, definite lean on Denver, 84% of the spread dollars
Wow.
compared to just 53% of the spread bets. But we're talking over a small sample size, only 600 or so bets on this game so far. So something to keep in mind, something to monitor. But I think that Denver at the current number looks like a pretty appealing spot.
This total's already gone up 3 points, and for kind of obvious reasons. Now people are starting to believe that Denver can put some points on the board, certainly against Atlanta if they ever stood a chance, as Maddie just said. But I don't know, man. Did we see anything click on offense for Denver last week? Did we see something that you go, this is replicable? Or did they just play a game against the Chargers, who always seem to allow points at the end of games?
Yeah, So you say that about the Chargers. People always want to throw the narrative at Atlanta, but the Chargers have been like equally, I guess not equally as like
Yeah.
disappointing in like big moments, but they're right there. So I'm with you.
Four straight weeks now where they've blown a 16-point lead.
That is
I mean,
insane.
that's next level. And
Yeah.
no team snatches defeat from the jaws of victory like the San Diego LA Chargers. I swear, man. I mean, this has been going on for like a decade now. A decade. I don't know how Anthony Lynn still has a job, to be totally honest with you. Dan Quinn lost his job. Anthony Lynn probably should have gone too. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the Denver offense, which is kind of a sad premise, but here we are. This is what we're having to do.
Yeah, LaMarca mentioned it, but I don't think that Drew Lock is just like incapable of putting points. I mean, he's one of those guys that is not scared to air it out. He leads the entire slate this week in average intended air yards this year at 9.9 yards per attempt. So he'll sling it down the field. He is not scared. I think one thing that people probably haven't been talking about enough is just how bad that the Broncos have been against the ground. So they gave up almost 200 yards on the ground before kind of getting bailed out at the last second last week. So that's a concern for sure. Not that Atlanta is like this elite running offense. Yeah, so maybe the pieces don't fit together, and we should still just be on the Broncos here. So that's probably the side I'm on.
Todd Gurley Renaissance game coming up. It's going to be the slowest, most painful to watch Renaissance game ever. So I don't know. It's difficult because neither of these teams inspires much confidence. I suppose you can get on the Denver bandwagon a little bit. Is 4 points just too much for Atlanta? Do they deserve 4 points? You don't think so, Maddie. So you're in on Denver if you're going to make a play. How do you feel about it, Joe?
Yeah, I think I've been on Denver also. I just don't like, I have a hard time getting on board with like the Falcons in general because like so much can go wrong at the end. So Broncos are 5th in passing yards allowed this year. So I guess that would be the argument if you did want to be on the Atlanta side. But I still think that the Broncos +4, this is a pretty easy, I think, underdog spot for me.
How do you feel about the total? 50.
I think it's probably about right. I think if I had to pick one side, I'm maybe on the over because I don't really respect either of these defenses right now. I guess like you said, I wish that there was a better running game for Atlanta because I feel a little bit more comfortable in the over, but I think it's about right.
Maddie?
Yeah, I would lean over as well. I mean, we've already seen a bunch of movement compared to the advanced spread or advanced total, which was 47. But yeah, to Joe's point, Atlanta was in a smash spot to run the ball last week too against Carolina.
True.
And Todd Gurley just is complete dust. He continues to salvage his fantasy stock by finding the end zone basically on a weekly basis, but he can't run the ball anymore. It's sad, but it's true.
It's been true for a while now. Just wanted to break that to all y'all. All right, Chicago and Nick Foles goes to Nashville. The Titans, what the hell happened last week, man? They're now 5.5-point favorites. There's a 46.5-point total on this. Matt, can you tell me what happened with the Titans last week?
Joe Burrow, man, he's the real deal. These rookie quarterbacks, I know Tua didn't look great in his first start, but
Yeah,
Burrow and Herbert, legit. Buy him while you can. Nick Foles is just the absolute worst. I am so done with Nick Foles.
Are you Team Trubisky right now? Do you say
I really
they should
am.
bring back Mitch?
I don't want to be Team Trubisky. That's not a corner that I want to be on. But if the other corner is Nick Foles, then yeah,
Okay.
you can find me on the Trubisky corner. Foles was so bad that the broadcasters during the game were literally talking about benching him while the game was tied. That's how bad that he was in that game.
Troy Aikman just losing all decorum. Nick Foles
his adjusted yards per attempt is down to 5.4. It's just so bad.
That's Garoppoloian.
Like, and he has Allen Robinson, who is a consensus like top 5 wide receiver.
He's outstanding.
And it still is just an abomination. I want nothing to do with Chicago. I will happily buy the Titans now, coming off of a disappointing week. I mean, they've dropped the advanced spread was 6.5. Now it's 5.5. Sure.
What's that about?
Why do you
think that?
The Titans lost? You know, there's definitely some people that think that the Titans are overrated. And yeah, if you were considering them one of the best teams in the league, then yeah, they're overrated. But they're still much better than Chicago.
Joe, are the Titans overrated? Are you one of those guys who is like, listen, I'm sorry, I have to bring it up. Like, they have one mode of transportation. It's the Derrick Henry train. I know that you don't like the Derrick Henry train, that the Derrick Henry train has hurt you many times before, but can you talk about the Derrick Henry train?
Yeah, I mean, for the record, I guess the Bears, they do one thing very well, and they do stop the run. They shut down Kamara, at least on the ground, last week. So I think that's, I guess, something for the Bears if you want to be on that side of it. That said, I still like Tennessee in this game. I think that they're better than these last two games would show you. They've got two tough losses, I would say, but I think that they kind of rebound here. I don't know if LaMarca chirped me the other day for saying making a statement against the Jets, but I think Tennessee makes a statement here against the Bears, and they roll. I actually think that even if they contain the big dog Derrick Henry, that Tannehill can do enough on the other side to make it to where just I don't think Chicago's gonna be able to score enough points to keep up.
Yeah,
I'm
Dieter,
with you.
that's some serious disrespect for Ryan Tannehill,
Yeah,
calling the Titans a one-trick pony.
he's been good, man.
Yeah, when the other pony is actually carrying the entire team. I don't disagree that he is an adequate game manager quarterback. You get him into play action, it's good to go. But teams kind of have figured out that you don't have to respect him otherwise. And he hasn't proven them incorrect to this point. Maybe that comes, but listen, there's a reason he's on his second team. Just saying that.
He's been
Like, this is
efficient
Yeah,
though.
the reason is called Adam Gase.
Yeah, there you go. You can almost like throw out like that entire sample size of Ryan Tannehill. He just started his career as soon as he was away from him. I don't know, man. Like I mean, we talk about efficiency at quarterback. He is top 5 in completion percent, above expectation in this spot. So I mean, that's one of the metrics that you look at, like how he's actually playing. Is he actually talented? Guys like Justin Herbert, Kyle Allen, Russell Wilson, those guys are leading the way in that metric. But I mean, Ryan Tannehill, still right there. I understand it's easier to be efficient when you guess obviously everyone has to go all in to stop someone like Derrick Henry, but I don't think he's dust. I think the opposite actually.
No, I don't think he's dust. I just think that he's aggressively average, and aggressively average doesn't get it done.
All right.
Like, it just doesn't get it done for me. And let's also establish that the dude's got like a bitchin' receiver core. So it's not he of the
Nobody
Titans.
would have said that about his receiving core prior to Tannehill. It's not like when Marcus Mariota was quarterback, everybody
Well,
was
they
like,
did-
"No, who's the stud? Corey Davis."
Yeah, okay, but it's not Corey Davis as the number one option. Like, you have Jonnu, you have really good
Jonnu,
receivers.
right?
I like Jonnu.
So
What
do
do you want me
I.
to do? Just
The
saying.
guys who we consider to be good players have good guys throwing them the ball. It's just a fact.
Don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. It's funny. It's almost like this game of football has a lot of tentacles and is all mixed together. And I'm saying Chicago can stop the run. Joe said it. I'll take it. Chicago can stop the run. You don't have to bite on the play action with Tannehill. You can go full Jared Goff and just not accept it. And if you lose, but don't accept it, because you will lose if you accept play action. Do that. The Bears know how to do that. They've done it before. They'll do it again. That's how you play in the NFC North, apparently, which, credit to the NFC North, it's about the only good thing they do. I think that Tannehill's going to have to win it. I'm betting on him to win it. I would also like to establish that Tennessee's defense is doo-doo. So maybe I'm just I'm out on Tennessee in general, but I'm in on them this week because I'm even more out on the Bears. This game makes me sad. We're talking about a different one now. Oh, come on. This one, Detroit and Minnesota. Jeez Louise. All right. Minnesota is a 4-point favorite. It's a 53.5 point total, which is saucy. That's a saucy total there. Maddie, are we buying Kirk Cousins or Matt Stafford, or are we buying ourselves, a nice afternoon of drinking instead of watching this?
Yeah, I don't think that this is a game that like really jumps off the page to me, but I'm always going to side with the team that's getting the spread value. And right now that is Detroit. Advanced line here was 2. Now it's 4. That'll happen when you upset the Packers. So I think that the value right now from a pure spread perspective lies with the Lions. But, I have said all season that I think that Minnesota is better than their record.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I need to go out on a limb here with Detroit. But for me, it's either the Lions or pass.
Joe, do you like anything about the Lions?
Not really, especially if Kenny Galladay isn't going to play in this game. It looks like he's going to be
Good
out
point.
multiple weeks, so that's a
Yep.
big loss for this offense. I'm like always on the side of I don't think Marvin Jones can truly be a number one. I don't think he can dominate on the outside without having that other piece to kind of take over some of that coverage. So I'm a little bit more bullish on the Vikings, I think, than I have been recently, but I'm with Maddie because I think that like as bad as their record is, like the Vikings have actually covered in 4 of their past 5 games. So there's a reason to like them because I think that I guess until this upset against the Packers, like they haven't been getting a ton of respect from the betting market. So I'm not really big on the Lions overall. The Vikings are historically, I guess, over their last like 5 games against Detroit, have played really well. 5-0, both straight up and against the spread. They've won those games by an average of 13 points. So I think it's the Vikings for me. It's tough because like the amount of points that they're being given here, I kind of want to see where this line moves throughout the week. I don't know if this is one that I have enough conviction about to grab right away, though.
Yeah, no, I don't like anything about this, so I'm staying away. And that I'll say this: the one thing that I do feel okay about is maybe an under bet here. 53.5 is a lot to be putting on Kirk Cousins. I can get Matt Stafford doing it, but come on, this is expecting another performance like that from Dalvin Cook, which is feasible given Detroit's defense, but probably not likely. My man is going to need a week off, and I imagine it happens whether it's conscious or not against Detroit. So I'm staying away from this one. If anything, I'm playing the under. We don't have a tremendous amount of data here on Baltimore and Indianapolis because, as Marlon Humphrey tweeted out today, he got the Rona. So who knows what the hell's going on in Baltimore? We do have somebody out there. Maddie told me about it, and I'll just cite it without even checking it. Baltimore -3. How do we feel about Baltimore -3 at Indianapolis? That's a lot of respect for the Colts, but stuff's crazy right now, Joe.
Yeah, I just want to believe in this Ravens team. I want to believe that Lamar Jackson is better than he's shown. I personally like. I get more nervous when he just puts himself in these situations where he's just taking all of these big hits. Like I don't want to go through an entire offseason of people talking about is Lamar Jackson washed? Was that just a flash in the pan season? Because I don't believe that at all. So the NFL is better when Lamar Jackson and when the Ravens are a really good team. So I think there's a chance that they rebound here. They're a team that has been very good on the road. Obviously, they've been a very good team overall, but they've won 9 straight road games away from Baltimore, 10-4 against the spread over those games. So I do like Baltimore in this spot. It probably has a lot to do with just how little I think of Phillip Rivers at this moment, but I definitely think I'm on the Baltimore side. Again, taking another favorite, but feels bad.
Maddie, are you going to allow Joe to besmirch your Indianapolis Colts like this?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with it. I mean, I will probably be on the Colts as home underdogs, contrarian home underdogs.
Yeah.
I think that Baltimore is probably a bit overrated at this point. Indy it remains a bit underrated. People look at the Colts, they see Phillip Rivers, and they're like, "This team stinks." But if you haven't been paying attention, the Colts put up 41 last week,
Mm-hmm.
and they put up a big comeback performance versus the Bengals 2 weeks ago.
Oh man.
So this offense, if they start quietly waking up and they are going to, match or not match, but if they can at least come close to producing what the defense is doing, I think that
Yeah.
this team is going to be very good still. Um, I worry that the NFL has caught up to Lamar a little bit.
Yeah.
We see it all the time. The more game film that gets put out, the easier it becomes to prepare for opponents. I'm not saying that it's easy to prepare for Lamar Jackson at this point, but there's really nobody else on that team that scares you. Like
Mm.
if you can contain the running game, you can beat the Ravens. Is kind of what we have seen. Lamar is not at the point where he can beat you with his arm. Mark Andrews doesn't seem to be having a great season. Marquise Brown is, constantly being touted by the DFS community and just never has a good game. So
Can't
I-
confirm.
I'm I'm
Can't.
starting to waver in my conviction of the Ravens, and
Yeah.
I think they're going to struggle again against the Colts this week. I really do.
Colts have a good defense, and I think you're spot on, Maddie. Like Lamar is just too inaccurate. The opportunities are there. I mean, they're selling out. Teams are selling out to stop the run. they're only doing so well at that. They're daring Lamar to beat him with his arm. And I mean, he doesn't make simple throws. That's problematic, man. I mean, I'm watching it every week with the 49ers, the team that I cover outside of this. Like, when you can't make simple throws, it's really hard to move the ball. It's really hard to win games. So
Not to
Lamar,
mention, we have to watch out for this Marlon Humphreys thing. Like, he played a
yeah,
full game with COVID. It's very possible that there are going to be other players on that team that test positive in the coming days.
it's not surprising that there's not a lot of data on this game, that there are not a lot of posted
Correct.
spreads, totals, anything like that. This one, let's be real, probably going to get moved, but we'll see. Plenty of time between now and the time you have to make that decision. We have to make a decision, though, right now on Carolina at Kansas City. Kansas City, after just demolishing the Jets, as you would have expected. 10.5-point favorites over. Listen, that might be a little disrespectful to Teddy. I get it, but it's a little bit, it's like a smidge. It's like a point disrespectful to Teddy. Just throwing that out there. 52.5 is the total. Do Mahomes and company keep their foot on the pedal and just destroy a Carolina team that they're unquestionably better than, or does Carolina make this one interesting, Matt?
I definitely am team don't bet against Patrick Mahomes right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's not going to win the MVP at this rate. That will probably go to Russell Wilson, but he's still the best player in the league, right? And they were just dominant offensively against the Jets. Not that that really means anything, but I don't see any way that Carolina slows them down either. Carolina isn't much better defensively than the Jets at this point. So I might lean towards the over here. The only thing that I'm keeping my eye on, and I feel like this was a big thing that I missed last week, was all the potential weather concerns. Now that we're getting into November, the weather is going to turn in some of these outdoor stadiums. Kansas City right now, it looks like it's forecast for 20 mile-an-hour winds at game time, which isn't like apocalyptic. The weather in Cleveland last week was apocalyptic. And that was just a spot that I frankly missed. That was the most obvious under early in the week, and I should have seen it coming. So I'm trying to do more diligence in that regard this week. But the sharps don't seem to be scared because this spread has already, or this total has already moved from 50.5 to 52.5. So
that's a weird stadium too.
Yeah,
Like it obviously it's a full bowl, so you don't have the kind of wind coming in off of the corners or anything like that, but it does swoop. It's not a very tall bowl, so it comes down, and that can mess some stuff up. I remember I've covered a game there where there's some serious swirl happening. So
some swoop.
some swoop and some swirl. Keep that in mind if you're playing an over, which I'm with you. All the recipe is right for an over, but we got swoop and we got swirl, so we'll see if that pans out. Keep posted to the Weather Channel ahead of Sunday's game. That's apparently what we're about all now. Joe, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm with LaMarca. I'm not really interested in betting against the Chiefs at this moment. Even if you just look back to their past 17 games, if we include playoffs, 14-2-1 against the spread. That's a pretty crazy number. I think that just looking at the weather, it makes me like them even more because unfortunately for the Panthers, they've struggled so much in the run game. So what depends on what you think, obviously, of CEH and Le'Veon Bell, but Carolina has allowed the most fantasy points to running backs in the entire NFL this year. They've lost 3 straight. I just don't think that they'll be able to keep up. I think that there's a chance that one of those running backs or both have a huge day, even regardless of the weather.
Teddy might need a third glove to slice through this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't have ended it better myself. Houston, Deshaun Watson getting to play Jake Luton and the Jacksonville Jaguars. You don't go to Duval and beat Jake Luton unless you're Houston. You're 6.5-point favorites. What do we think about this one, Joe, other than I don't want to watch it?
Gross. I guess it's a revenge spot for Jacksonville because they got beat pretty convincingly earlier in the season by Houston. But I don't know. I'm definitely Team Minshew mania, so it's unfortunate that he's going to get, I guess, blamed for the inefficiencies of this Jacksonville team, because I actually think that Minshew's a reasonably good quarterback. I don't think a lot of Houston, but I definitely don't think much of Jacksonville at this point. So I guess, I'm taking another favorite in this spot. Another favorite. What am I doing, LaMarca? Another favored road team against a bad home. I don't know, man. I assume LaMarca is on the Jaguars here. That's probably the sharp side, but I can't do it personally.
Lutton, respect. Oregon State. Tell them about it, Matt LaMarca.
So for what it's worth, Joe, the early betting numbers seem to agree with you.
Too sharp.
61% of the bets on Houston, but 94% of the dollars. So
yes, sir.
That said, this line has dipped from 7 to 6.5, which anytime the line moves opposite of the betting like that, I do get a little bit, nervous. I think for sure I'm on Jacksonville here. I mean, Minshew is not a bad quarterback, but he's also not moving the needle, right? He's fine. He's going to do some good things and he's going to do some bad things. We don't know what this Lutton dude is about, but I guess the Jaguars want to see if they have something in him, either that or they're looking to tank. Both seem like smart strategies at this point. Regardless, I don't think Houston deserves to be favored by nearly a touchdown on the road. What has this Houston team done to deserve that kind of respect?
They don't have Jake Lutton as their quarterback. They have Deshaun Watson. I mean, it might be as simple as that. Both of these teams suck. I mean, they suck across the board. So it's like, who's the better quarterback? Is Deshaun Watson a touchdown better quarterback than Jake Lutton? Yeah.
Another thing I was reminded of today, which I had forgotten, is that Houston does not have their first round pick. So they really have no incentive to do anything but try to win football games. So there is some talk that Will Fuller might be on the trade market. They might make some moves here and there, but it's not like this team is stands to benefit at all if they're not winning games.
No. We'll talk about Miami here in a second. They're the ones who hold that first round pick for the Houston Texans. All right, Daniel Jones, after another terrible game, gets to play the Washington football team and Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen's favored by 3.5. The total on this game is 41. Like it's 1974, a 41-point total. Maddie, other than just sheer sadness, what are you getting out of this game?
Yeah, I mean, the Sharps appear to like the Giants, and I don't disagree that it makes sense when you have two teams that are this bad, just grab the points, right?
Yeah.
When these two teams played in New York earlier this year, the Giants were favored by 2.5 in that game. And they ultimately ended up winning by just a single point. So Washington covered, getting the points. I think that this could be a very similar situation. That said, I think I like Washington. I think Washington might be the best team in this division. Their pass rush is the only positive. Pick every unit on every NFC East team, and the only thing that you can look at and say that's an above average unit is the Washington pass rush. They made life absolutely miserable for Andy Dalton 2 weeks ago.
They did.
I believe they're coming off a bye, which is another positive. Favorites off of a bye. Hasn't exactly crushed this year, just 4-5, excuse me. But again, long term, that is a profitable trend that we can target. So I would feel better if this spread was like 2.5 points, if it was just the opposite of what it was the first two times these teams met. But I do think Kyle Allen has given them better quarterback production than Dwayne Haskins was giving them. And I really like their defensive line. I think that they should be able to put Daniel Jones under pressure. And we typically know how that ends when it happens.
Turnovers in 20 of 21 games for Daniel Jones. He kind of has a thing. It's a kink at this juncture. What do you think about it, Joe?
So this is a game that I'm pretty clearly on the under, even though it's not a high total by any
41.
means. I think you could still hammer the under here, honestly. The Giants, I think there's two data points that actually matter here. The one, LaMarca hit on it, obviously the defensive line for Washington against one of the worst quarterbacks in the league under pressure. So there's that. The Giants also don't have anyone, in my opinion, to stop Terry McLaurin. That's a big problem. I don't care who's at quarterback for Washington. I think Terry McLaurin's going to ball out here. But I mean, 22 sacks on the year so far for this Washington defense against a Giants offensive line that is just horrendous. I think that's probably the only thing you need to be on the Washington side of this one. The one thing that scares me a little bit is that the Giants, it's been ugly, but on the road in their last 19 games, 4-14 straight up, but they're actually 16-3 against the spread. That's a crazy number. So like I don't know if I can actually do it, but man, I mean that's a pretty decent sample of the Giants just getting like basically disrespected while on the road because they're so bad and they just continue to cover. So it's a weird spot.
Yeah. No confidence off of Monday night. I mean, they almost beat Tampa. We agree Tampa's good, right? Like we're all in agreement that that's a good team, and yet the Giants gave them a game.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, because otherwise it would have been horrendous. We all expected it to be bad. We needed something to uplift us. I don't know. I might be in on the Giants. What I'm going to be really in on is avoiding this game like the plague. All right, Vegas. Derek Carr goes to LA's team, the Chargers, and Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert is a 1.5 favorite. The Chargers are a 1.5 favorite after what they just did against a Raiders team, which is flawed, but like competent. Like they seem to be doing a-okay. What the hell's going on, Matt?
I almost never prefer a total to a side. Like I am just
Yeah.
I am just better at picking sides than I am at picking totals for some reason. But I don't understand why this total has dipped to just 53. These are two teams that play no defense and put up points. I think that this game looks like a potential shootout, stack potential game in DFS. Like I love all the points to be scored here. Justin Herbert just continues to do things that really have never been done by a rookie quarterback. The amount of touchdowns that this guy throws is pretty unheard of. And Derek Carr, we know what we get with Derek Carr, right? Like if he has optimal conditions, he can pick you apart. And I don't see the Chargers as the type of team that are going to make life miserable for him. They do have a solid group of pass rushers, headlined by Bosa and Ingram, but it's not like this team has been putting a ton of pressure on quarterbacks this year. They are just 17th in terms of adjusted sack rate, so middle of the pack. I think points are on the board here.
What do you think about it, Joe?
Yeah, I agree. In theory, I guess, with there being a lot of points in this game, I guess kind of disagree that they might come from Derek Carr. The Chargers defense allowed 6.8 yards per carry against the Broncos last week, which is completely insane. We just saw Josh Jacobs get the ball, 33 times on the ground last week. Obviously, there were some weather concerns in that game like we touched on earlier. But I think they probably get there on the back of Josh Jacobs. I think this team's actually are they a contender in the AFC? Like I hate even like saying that, but like I mean sure. Their record shows it so far. So I'm with you that I agree that Herbert is the real deal. I think that the Raiders are going to have a ton of success on the ground in this spot, though. So I think that I'd be on the Raiders side in this one.
Yeah, the Raiders are absolutely a contender. 7 teams make the playoffs, man. If you're like around 500 on December 1st, you're in the picture. I mean that's I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's the case. And listen, this game will go a long way to actually determining if the Raiders are kind of in it or not, because we still have to figure out who the second best team in the West is. It ain't the Broncos. It could be the Chargers, but probably isn't the Chargers. So I guess it's the Raiders, who have already beaten the Chiefs. I mean, they're in it. They're in it. So this feels disrespectful, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I'm taking the Raiders. Let's talk about Miami. They're the ones who hold that Texans first round pick. Adam Schefter reporting over the weekend that part of the reason they went to Tua instead of Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was unquestionably cooking, was they have the Texans first round pick, which means that despite the fact that Miami is, I would argue, the best team in the AFC East and probably going to win that division, we'll see. They're going to have probably a top 10 pick. And if Tua cannot perform over 8 games, they'll just draft another damn quarterback, because you get 8 games in the modern NFL. You don't get a year. You don't get 2. You get 8 games. That's the Dwayne Haskins rule, and it applies to Tua. So we didn't see anything special in game 1. The game script didn't really force him to do anything special. Do we have to see him do something special against Arizona? Joe, I think I know the answer to this question, but I want you to answer it for me. You know Kyler Murray's going to go off in whatever ways Kyler Murray can go off against a good Miami defense. We're going to have to see Tua. We're going to have to see him perform well at a place where I'm thinking he's performed well before, in Arizona.
Yeah, we didn't really, learn a whole lot, I don't think, about Tua last week. We knew the spot was just going to be such an impossible position for a rookie quarterback to come into. So I think we expected him to struggle a little bit last week. So I think this will be like the first time we actually get to see him and what he has. I think that Arizona, being a 5.5 point favorite, I was hoping that this line would be a little bit more in Miami's favor. Shout out to LaMarca, because he's been talking about how good this Dolphins defense is for weeks now, and they finally blew up last week. So that was a great call, man. I think you're absolutely right. There's better days ahead for this Dolphins team overall, even though they're still, they're 4-3 this year. It's
good.
I agree that, like, if they're a borderline team, getting Tua in there, get him some experience, I understand that from a football perspective. I would love to see Fitzpatrick end up somewhere. But in terms of this game, my heart says the Cardinals, but my brain says that this is a pretty good spot for Miami on the road, even at 5.5.
Well, let's talk about that Dolphins defense, Matt. Do you think that they can slow down Kyler Murray? I'm not asking anybody to stop Kyler. He's too good, but can they slow him down in a meaningful way?
Absolutely, they can. This Dolphins defense is for real. And I continue to say that the Cardinals are overrated. I know that they beat the Seahawks, but we've already said that the Seahawks defense is an absolute joke, especially since they're playing without Jamal Adams. So the fact that they won that game in a shootout really means very little to me.
Yeah.
He is going to have his work cut out for him against the Dolphins, who I agree with you, Dieter, I think are the best team in the AFC East. Whether or not they can make up the ground in the standings and catch Buffalo, that remains to be seen. But I'm happy that I invested in Miami when I did.
Yep.
The real question I have is, like, what is Tua doing during practice? Like, is he just like walking into Brian Flores' office and just like moving all his furniture around? Like, how can you hate this guy so much? He's coming off of a major surgery. He was basically considered like the consensus number 1 overall pick, a generational quarterback talent prior till he got hurt. And now he has 8 games to prove his NFL worthiness.
Well,
I
okay.
just don't get it.
Let me ask you this. What is it that he is appreciably great at? You look at a guy like Herbert and you go,
Accuracy.
Okay, great. There's been a lot of guys who are apparently really good at accuracy. It doesn't matter if you can't throw the
They're
ball
typically
15
good
yards.
quarterbacks.
No, not necessarily. What was Case Keenum known for? Accuracy. Where's he hanging out? Like, there's a lot of guys who, he's not very big. He's like 6 feet tall. Okay, so you already have a problem there. I understand that there's a certain level of lenience that we give now to smaller quarterbacks, but Kyler Murray is a hyper freak athlete. Russell Wilson is a hyper freak athlete. Tua is not wiggly like that. He doesn't have that twitch. Like, he's not going to scramble and get you yards. He's crafty. And so his comp is Drew Brees with an arm. Well, that's a very narrow window, man. Like, I don't think
That's
it's
a great comp. What are we talking about?
No, that's a great comp. That's his high end. High end. And then the low end is every backup quarterback who comes in ever performs well for a couple of games, then the book is out on the guy and he never performs well again. Like, there's one Drew Brees. Like, that's it. And then everybody else usually sucks when they're in the Drew Brees camp of quarterbacks. I believe in Tua, but I don't think that it's wrong for the Dolphins to be like, 8 games, prove it. And by the way, it's not like 8 garbage time games. Each of these games has major stakes. Like, each of these games matters a ton for the Dolphins. So none of these stats are fake. And they're going to have to play real game scripts from here on out. They can't just say, let Tua air it out and we'll see what we got here. No. Let's see what Tua does in real high-pressure situations. If they don't make the playoffs, so be it. It's the Dolphins. They're in a rebuild, and they'll make it next year or the year after that. Like, they're on the right track. Clearly, Flores is the guy. But, man, like, I don't think it's wrong to say, Tua, you got 8 games to prove it. Because if he completely bottoms out, you cannot waste another year on a guy. Like, what the Giants are doing. Look at what the Jets have done. Like, you get 8 games or so to prove it. And if you want to waste another year, so be it. Guess what? Hopefully it's a good quarterback year for you. The Dolphins are in a really cool situation where they can stack it. And maybe they have 2 guys competing for it last year. But we've already seen it with Arizona. Joe can attest to this. Like, Josh Rosen was the guy until he wasn't. And it's worked out pretty well.
Blasphemous to compare Tua to Josh Rosen. Maybe Tua's living too much on reputation in my head, but I just feel like we give rookie quarterbacks more than 8 games. Like, Sam Darnold still has truthers out there. It's ridiculous to me. We're gonna bury Tua after one game.
I'm sure there's a Jamarcus Russell truther who's still out there. I mean, like it's I don't disagree with you. Listen, these 8 games, we're gonna get to see him play. He gets the 8 games. We're not canceling him after one. Like he wasn't good in that game, or he wasn't impressive. Let's say not impressive. He gets 7 more, and it's sink or swim, baby. And maybe they want to say, well, we saw just enough. Like it's okay. We'll figure it out. But like that was a pretty they had to make that move to him now because you have to know, at least you have to have a baseline. You have to have a strong understanding to the best of your ability, and you need some games to get a sample size of what the hell you have, because you do have a really high draft pick because of the Texans suck. Like you do have the opportunity to get off of this and move on. If it doesn't look like it's working out, they have to figure out if it's not working out. And ultimately, I know that Tua is a name that we've talked about for years and years and years, but how much of that is he's playing in the Alabama system with just the world's greatest wide receivers, with a great offensive line, in a SEC whose defense has just gone like this over the last 5 years? How much of this is him? And we're going to find out, and I'm super excited for it. And I think we get to find out a little bit in this game, which it should be, to a certain degree, a shootout. So this is the one game that I'm really excited to watch this weekend, because Kyler is always must-see TV, and now we're going to get to find out what Tua is or isn't, because he's going to have to air it out a little bit more. They can't use that same game script. Let's talk about the Sunday night game. These are two guys who we don't have questions about, well, at least in the macro sense. Drew Brees, Tom Brady, they're kind of good at this. They're okay. I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but they have good reputations. Tampa Bay's a 5.5-point favorite. I'm still of the belief that the Saints are secret trash. Joe, what do you think about 5.5 points for Tampa Bay at Tampa Bay, 51.5-point total?
Yeah, I think it's possible maybe Tampa Bay gets kind of overlooked this last matchup, and it was a little bit closer than it should have been. I think that this is a game that I'm super excited to watch for sure. I think that the Tampa Bay side is definitely interesting at home. This New Orleans team, I don't think they're a fraud by any means, but I don't believe in them as much as I did earlier in the season. I thought the Saints were a true contender to come out of the NFC. I don't know if I still believe that. Anytime you feel like, I guess, had the kind of wrinkles they've had so far this year, I definitely have some concerns. And then just Brady in general, the weapons that he has, like the defense that's there, he doesn't have to do a ton. And I guess like he has been like putting up points and all of those things. So it's like a combination of where I kept comparing it to Peyton Manning and the Broncos. And I don't know if it is that anymore, because Tampa Bay's offense is going to put up points as well. It's not the best matchup by any means, but if this line continues to, I guess, favor Tampa Bay in this spot at home, I think I'm pretty comfortable with it at this point.
Maddie, the total has dropped dramatically from 55.5 opening to now 51.5. What the hell's up?
I think people are coming around to your take on New Orleans, and people are definitely coming around to the fact that Tampa Bay has very good defense. I was hoping we'd be getting a little bit of spread value here, but unfortunately, New Orleans didn't look good in their last game either. So this spread has actually moved from 4.5 on the advanced line to 5.5.
Yes.
So Vegas is certainly not thrown off by Tampa's performance versus the Giants. I'm still holding out a little bit of hope on New Orleans. I would love to see Michael Thomas come back. I believe he's still on the roster.
Who knows? We'll find out by the end of the day.
If he's back, like I just think that that's about as big of an upgrade as you can make on the offensive end. Like, he is a special wide receiver. Apparently, he's a headache, but the guy is,
he's the slant god.
An 80% catch rate on, the most targets in the league, basically, for the past 3 seasons. So giving Drew Brees another weapon is going to benefit that team.
Yeah.
How much does it benefit them? Can they compete with this Tampa Bay defense? I don't know. Again, I think that the under looks like my favorite play here. Both of these defenses are better than most people think. This first game was a little bit on the lower scoring side, even though Tom threw a pick 6. So I like the under. As far as the side, I'm going to see Michael Thomas's status before ultimately making a decision there.
Yeah. I'm just going to hold out. Saints are secret trash. Not betting them. I'm not betting this game. Like, I'm just out on this game. I think that Vegas has done a good line, but like, if you had to make me, Saints, secret trash.
All right,
This
game of the week, guys.
Love it.
This game is unquestionably trash. New England at the Jets. New England's a 7-point favorite. The total on this one, another 41-point total. We are back. We are back in 1977. I mean, Matt, do you have thoughts on this game?
The Jets offense is just apocalyptically bad. Their past 3 weeks, they've had 9 points, 10 points, and 0 points.
Yep.
They can't score. Their
Nope.
lower, their biggest bright spot last week was Sergio Castillo, the kicker that they signed off the street who drilled a 55-yarder. That was all that the Jets gave us to be excited about. We had Braxton Berrios getting like 85 targets for a total of 13 air yards.
First off, Joe, I told you that Braxton Berrios was going off on Sunday. I told you to ride the Berrios train. I could have saved you. I promise.
I mean, Leone had both of he had Mims and he had Berrios in his Thunderdome team in 150K. So what do we know, man? I mean, they're so bad, but like, I think the thing that was the most tilting about this game though is like, anytime you're playing against the Chiefs and have to put up points, like let's just establish it with Frank Gore. You know what I mean? Like they were down in that game. He still got 10 carries, and a lot of those came like basically in the middle of the game when they were down like multiple touchdowns. So like, I don't know, man. I just like I don't even think that the Patriots are good, but like by default, like this is a spot you cannot
be on Adam Gase's level.
Yeah,
there's no way ahead of you. Dieter for last week, he got me all nervous that Patrick Mahomes isn't going to play the whole game. 400 yards and 5 touchdowns later. He played start to finish.
He played. I mean, we knew that was going to happen if he played. It was just a question on if he would play. It was a very binary situation. If he played, he was going to absolutely dominate. He played, so he dominated. I can't believe anybody. LaMarca, do you have a total on bets on this game yet? Like, do we have a number of people who have these people? What are we doing? What's happening here? What has happened in your life that 416 people are out here placing bets on this game? Get the hell out of here.
They're grabbing New England, man. They're saying, I can bet against the Jets and I only have to lay a touchdown. That's like Christmas morning right there.
Yeah, except you got to bet on Cam Newton and a receiver. I mean, what was the name of the kicker that the Jets signed off the street?
Sergio Castillo.
I'm pretty sure Castillo's going to be playing wide receiver for the Patriots next week. So Monday Night Football, turn on something else. Guys, give me your favorite play of the week. We've got some early-ish lines here. It's obviously not super early. It's Tuesday, but looking at it, where do you think the value is? Favorite play of the week? We'll start with you, Joe.
Yeah, I like Washington against the Giants. I think it just comes down to that defensive line versus a quarterback who will definitely struggle under pressure. I don't think you really have to overthink that one overall. So I'm on Washington this week.
Who do you got, Maddie?
I'm going to keep riding the Miami gravy train, baby. Take them all the way to cashing that ticket town.
I can't believe I'm doing that. First off, what the hell was that? Cashing in ticket town. Give me Tennessee. The Bears just look washed. Or give me Green Bay on Thursday night. But none of this tickles my fancy. We'll see if anything changes over the next couple of days. You know, like the world. Tell the folks where they can find you next, Matt.
Yeah, I'll have my betting piece up Thursday morning where I'll touch on every main slate game, go into some details. You know, I'm going to start digging into the numbers. And hopefully can continue to make you guys some money. We've done pretty well this season.
Absolutely. Joe, when's the next time you're live streaming?
Yeah, so on my channel, it's Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern time, also Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Obviously, check out this show next week. This is the one that we definitely, it's kind of more of a first look. So I would say that if you're tuning into this a couple days later, definitely join us on Thursday night. Myself, LaMarca, and Peter Overzet will go through all of this from a DFS and a betting perspective. Obviously, at that point, LaMarca will have had his full betting breakdown finished and up on linemovement.com. And then obviously on Sunday morning, we'll get things rolling at about 11 a.m. Eastern time. Should be a fun week. A lot of shows, but this is the time of the year we just got to put our head down and keep going, right?
This is money making time, baby. And subscribe to all the line movement stuff, the new podcasts that are out. Get those. If you're not into the whole video thing, if our faces just repulse you, you can listen to our voices, which are much, much better. All right, guys. Have fun this week. Stay safe out there. Be kind to each other. Make some money. I don't know. Is there anything more to say? Talk soon.